Hi, everybody. Welcome to Christian Homestead. My name is Jared. Today, I have a really interesting story to share with you from this issue of the Juvenile Instructor. This is from February 1st, 1881. And I've already done a video about this story, but it was a long time ago, toward the beginning of my channel. There was a time before I started a lot of these spreadsheets where I was trying to track down stories about the three Nephites in John, and it's only now that I'm starting to add those stories to this spreadsheet for visions and visitations. So I'm pretty sure most of you have not heard this story. And even if you did, it's probably going to be nice for you to remember. But it's such an interesting story. If you've wondered what John and the three Nephites are doing exactly, this may shed some light as to what some of their activities look like. They're not just, I think it's hard for us to conceptualize exactly what they're doing, because seemingly there's not much of a record. But the thing is that it seems like there kind of is. We do have records here and there, if these witnesses are to be trusted. But this was published in the church. I don't know if you'd call this a newspaper or magazine, the Juvenile Instructor. It started out as a private publication, but then the church purchased it. It was started by George Q. Kent, or, oh my gosh, I had it up. George Q. Cannon, who ultimately became a member of the first presidency. So this isn't a church publication. I trust it. This is 1881. So the Saints had been in the Salt Lake Valley for a while at this point, although the Salt Lake Temple was not yet dedicated. But we did have the temple in St. George by this point. So I'm going to share this with you. Before I do, just one quick thing. Something special happened for me today. I was going over to the Temple Lot area because I was going to make a video for my other channel called Explore Church Sites. I wanted to make a video of the auditorium of Community of Christ. And I saw that the visitor center was open for the Church of Christ Temple Lot. They're the ones that own the Temple Lot, and they have the small white chapel. And something was just calling to me, and I decided to go in, even though that wasn't my primary objective for today. And I didn't think that they would let me record, just based on a couple of previous interactions. Not bad interactions, but I felt like, oh, I'll probably never be able to record in there. But then today I was allowed to. This is it's called the Quorum Room. It's where their 12 apostles meet. This is their headquarters building, by the way. So I was able to go inside and look at this. My host allowed me to go upstairs and record their chapel. I saw the baptismal font and basically got to see the whole thing, except for maybe like a couple places. But I pretty much got the whole thing. So I would encourage you to watch this. I'll put a link for this in the description box below. Just fascinating things. I've been able to access and record so much with this other channel. So don't miss it. Okay, we're going to read this story from archive.org just because it displays a little bit better on my computer screen. Here's the article, A Strange Personage by RSS. I don't know why they did this, but at least in this issue, there was nowhere explaining, nowhere that said what these initials stood for. Not for this article and not for other articles. So it doesn't really help. I just did a quick search. I went to Grok, and Grok said, oh, this is probably Richard Samuel Salisbury. But I don't know. It says that this person here passed away later that year in November. Was it him? I have no idea. But let's go ahead and read it. Occasionally, our missionaries, while traveling, preaching the gospel, encounter men and objects that to the casual observer are a matter of course. But to a careful student, they offer a field for study, as the following will illustrate. In May 1878, and I just want to point out that this may have nothing to do with it, but this is a year after the St. George Temple was dedicated. So after the Kirtland Temple, after the Nauvoo Temple, this was the next temple that was successfully constructed. And it's the temple that's been in operation the longest. So I don't know. This may play into this story, that the fact that now the church, was established in Utah. There was a operating temple that would remain until this day, 2025. Okay, in May 1878, a man calling himself Robert Edge came into Lexington, Henderson County, Tennessee, preaching what he called the gospel after the apostolic order. His advent was as remarkable as his manner and teachings. The night he made his appearance, now this is so interesting. The night he made his appearance, there was a great noise, as of a terrible explosion, which was heard a distance of 35 miles. That is really weird. He was a man of ordinary appearance, small of stature, with red hair and pleasing address. He was well versed in scripture. In fact, the Bible was to him as a child's primer. He knew it all. He applied for the privilege to preach, and having obtained it, he preached the most remarkable sermon of modern times. He spoke of the apostasy from the primitive church and upon the apostolic order, and dwelt at some length upon the first principles of the gospel, more particularly upon the power of the Holy Ghost. He said he could not baptize, but the power to do so was upon the earth, and it would be revealed to them in due time. He proved conclusively by the Bible that the Roman Catholic Church is the quote-unquote mother of harlots, that the churches of modern Christianity are daughters and granddaughters of her, in that their priesthood is false and their members deluded. He said that all the secrets of Masonry and all the secret that's referring to Freemasonry, and all the secret combinations of man are now practiced, are a base counterfeit and an abomination in the sight of the Lord. He called upon all men to come out of Babylon, to forsake man-made doctrines and follow Christ, to assist in rolling forth the purposes of God, and to prepare for the great millennium, soon to be ushered in, when Christ will reign personally upon the earth. And of course, because that's the purpose of the church in this last dispensation, is to prepare for the second coming in the millennium. These last couple paragraphs may seem a little bit harsh, but I think it's right. And, please don't get after me. My mom's family, all of them are Catholics. They're from Portugal. My mom was a convert. My dad went on his mission to Portugal. She's the only one of her family that converted to the church. She moved here to the United States. All my family over there are Catholic, and I love them. They're good people. And actually, it seems like a number of them are pretty devout. They actually believe, and they're doing the best that they can to be a good Catholic. But of course, the organization itself is not Christ's true church. We all understand that. The Roman Catholic Church played a big part in the Great Apostasy. And then the whole thing with Masonry, it's interesting. I don't know why people get hung up about this. There's people that don't like the temple. because they see too many similarities between that and Masonry. I tend to think that there's a reason behind that. I think it's because some of those things were preserved in Masonry. Just like, you guys, do you realize that we didn't write the Bible? That the Bible came down through time, from generation to generation. Thankfully, it was preserved, although things were changed over time, things were removed. And so therefore, we have the Joseph Smith translations. We also have additional scripture that help clarify the Bible. So the Lord can use different mechanisms in groups and organizations to preserve things like this during the Great Apostasy. I don't think there's any big deal in that. Okay, but anyway, so he said, as they are now practiced, it's a base counterfeit. So it's like a lookalike. It's a imitation. Okay. Many other things he also told that were so remarkable that people stood aghast and inquired of him further. He preached a series of sermons denouncing Masonry, etc., and expounding the intricate parts of the scriptures. There was not a prophecy, but what he could explain as easily as if he had written it. And the first chapter of Ezekiel was to him as the alphabet. He organized a body of the church, as he said, by blessing and the laying on of hands, and admonished his converts to be faithful and pray to God always, who would reveal many great and important things to them that they should understand. He required them to fast 3 days in succession. And by the way, that's not as hard as it sounds. I recently, I think just about a month ago, I did a 48-hour fast. The first day is kind of hard because you have those hormones that are being produced that cause you to be hungry. But once your body realizes that it's like in survival mode and it starts going after your stored fat, you don't really feel hungry. And I could have kept going beyond 48 hours, and I think I will do that at some point. You should try it sometime. Just consult with your doctor first, especially if you're on medication. But just do a search for the benefits of extended fasting, and it'll blow your mind. It's worth doing, you guys, if you can safely do it. Okay. He required them to fast 3 days in succession. That's amazing. That's an extended fast right there. And they would have gotten all those health benefits, not just their body, but also their brain. There are benefits to your brain if you do an extended fast like that, particularly if it's 48 hours or more. Go look it up. Go look it up. After which he administered the Lord's Supper and informed them that they were not the only ones that were of this faith, but that he could not give them any further information upon this point. He instructed them that if any should persecute them for their doctrine, they should remove to the west. So again, remember, they're in Tennessee. So going west, you go far enough, you get to, the Intermountain West. The people watched him very closely. He lived as he taught them to, was abstemious in his habits, refraining from animal food of all kinds, and ate only cornbread and buttermilk. Really quick, this is an interesting detail right here because what we've already studied on the channel is that in the millennium, you're going to have two types of people. You're going to have the people that have already, gone to the other side of the veil who are now resurrected. Okay. So you're going to have resurrected people on the earth, but everybody else that's still immortality is going to be quickened / translated, whatever word you want to use. Our bodies are going to be changed in a pretty dramatic way. And one of those changes is that we're no longer going to eat meat. I'm not going to go through those quotes right now. Just if you need to see it, go to my spreadsheet called Quotes A through Z. Look up Millennium Vegetarianism, or I can't remember exactly where it's at, but you'll find it if you go to quotes A through Z. Look up quickened, things like that. We've studied that there's not going to be any more of the eating of meat. And the thing about it is that this person who's going by the name Robert Edge, he's presumably one of the three Nephites, or John. For all we know, maybe Christ gave this blessing to others to where they could remain upon the earth, and they're in a translated state, right? They're gonna live on the earth until the second coming, and so that might be why. I mean, they're essentially in like a millennial state. They're not yet resurrected, and therefore they've not yet had their final judgment. So that's what stands out to me. It's an interesting detail that I feel gives credibility to this story, because it's like a random detail. And back then in the 1800s, it's not like they had easy access to all these like quotes. The quotes that I have about vegetarianism in the millennium, I think they mostly come from just Joseph Fielding Smith and Bruce R. McConkie. There might be others, but anyway. Okay, so cornbread and buttermilk, which I guess if you had to narrow it down to just a couple things, that's not a bad choice. I wouldn't be upset about that. Many remarkable cases of healing occurred under his administration. He was asked if he was a quote unquote Mormon, to which he replied, "If I am a Mormon, God bless the Mormons." You guys, I think that this is interesting too. Okay, because it hasn't been really until recently that President Nelson corrected the church that we need to start using the full name of the church. And you'll remember that there's a part of 3rd Nephi that deals with the name of the church. And this has been a thing that's been kind of a problem where we've kind of entertained this nickname. It's just easier for other people, especially outside of the church, to just shorten it to Mormon. It's like, okay, you got the Book of Mormon, so we'll call you Mormons. It's quick, it's easy to remember. But this person, whoever it is, it's like, well, yeah, he could be like saying basically, without telling them, yeah, I guess you could say I'm Mormon. That's not really the name of the church, but sure, if I'm a Mormon, quote unquote, God bless the Mormons. You see what I mean? Okay, continuing. He intimated in talking to the people that when they had gone to the mountains of the west, he would again visit them. He said he had not authority to perform any of the ordinances pertaining to the church, but that the priesthood was upon the earth and its power would be made known to them. This is also interesting because if you're going to perform an ordinance of the priesthood, you have to do it by the authority of the one that holds the keys for that ordinance. So even though I have the priesthood, for example, I cannot just start baptizing people, as I see fit, because I haven't been authorized by the bishop, for example. So the Lord's church, it's a house of order, and you have priesthood keys. And even though, no doubt, this person has the Melchizedek priesthood, even though this might be John, the Revelator, it may be that in his current state, he can't do these things because he would specifically have to be directed by the kingdom of God on the earth right now, and those that hold those keys. And those keys were restored in the Kirtland Temple, but specifically. Well, let me think here. So we have the keys, the key of the gathering, which came through Moses. You have Elijah, that restored the sealing power. And the sealing power has to do with ordinances. It's not just being sealed in the temple for eternity. It's basically like all these ordinances that are performed are sealed both on heaven and on earth. You have to have that key that was restored by Elijah in order for ordinances to be in effect in heaven. So, anyway, okay, continuing. He said he had been preaching for 1800 years. So that's probably our biggest clue as to who he is. Again, there could be other people aside from John and the three Nephites. I do have my doubts that there was anybody named Robert Edge, in Jerusalem at the time. At the time of Christ. Or I doubt that there were any Robert Edges among the Nephites, but I don't know. I guess it's a possibility. So who knows? Maybe he's one of those four, or maybe it's somebody else. But either way, his true name is probably not Robert Edge. Okay, continuing. He remained with the people some time and explained a great many things to them that are not here mentioned. Well, why not? Please let us know what else he said. The people offered him money and clothes, but he positively refused to accept either. Yeah, you don't need that. If you're a translated being, I mean, I'm sure they have their own way of clothing themselves, and then they definitely don't need money because they can't die. That's one of the key things. They can't die. Okay. He was always forewarned of any danger that was about to happen to himself, and his disappearance was quite as mysterious as his advent. He has never been heard of since in that region. A great many more very curious traits of character and remarkable sayings and teachings of this wonderful man might be here jotted down. No, not might, just do it. Just do it. What? No, but let this suffice? No. Give us the rest of it. I leave my readers to solve the question, who is he? The little band he organized have since been baptized and immigrated to Colorado and are faithful and true to this great Latter-day work. So they ended up joining the church. And, can I verify that this is a true account? I don't know, because I don't know who RSS is. I do trust it because it was printed in a church publication. Okay. And even so, people can misremember things, people can lie, but I do trust this. I think that this is accurate. And it gives us a fascinating insight as to, what they might be doing. Was this a singular case? Was this kind of like an exception to the rule where you have one of them go to an entire, city or town and they do this type of preaching? Well, I'll tell you what, there is one other story that I'm aware of that, I think it also happened in the South. I want to say it happened in Georgia, but there's another similar story that I'll share, in an upcoming video. But it's interesting to think that, it's this kind of stuff that they're probably doing. And how much is there that's, either documented or undocumented? I'd be willing to bet that more times than not, they probably do like one-on-one type preaching and just kind of like nudge people toward the church. There's also a reason to believe that they can show up in dreams. I'll explain why in future videos. So that's what I have for this one. I've added it to my spreadsheet for, visions, visitations, near-death experiences, and so forth. Here it is right here. Currently row 169. And this makes, let's go to the bottom here where I have my tally by decade. This is my third one for the 1870s. So as the decades go, that's kind of a lot. If you don't count the 1820s and 1830s, 3 is relatively a lot, according to what I have so far. And that makes for a total of 95 accounts that I've collected across all these different decades. I can't wait to find more. It's a stunning amount of experiences that people have had. It's not just Joseph Smith, and it's not just church leaders. It's, we have a lot of stories from early members of the church that never had a leadership position. And I think it still happens today from time to time. I wouldn't be surprised if you've had, one of these. You should keep it sacred and not just share it publicly. You have to be careful and follow the spirit, but probably most of these things should be kept private and only shared with trusted individuals. But I do think that there's a lot more going on than what we realize. And after this life, when we're able to look back and everybody's able to tell their stories, or we can see it for ourselves, we'll probably be stunned at how much was actually going on that we had no idea about. So I'm excited for that day. That I'll have the master spreadsheet at that point. Okay. So now go check out this video that I did at the Church of Christ headquarters, the White Chapel that's on the temple lot, and explore it with me. That's gonna be it for this one. I'll talk to you guys later.